Hello guys, today we have the culture day and today's our guide is Jack. And can you cook?
Hello, I'm Jack. I'm a tour guide in Copenhagen. We did the grand tour, which is a big long tour. It's 2.5 hours, but we start off at the town hall of Copenhagen. We moved through the city and we talked about the politics whenever we got to Christiansborg Palace. But also as we went through, we got to Nyhavn Harbour, all those colourful buildings and that, and the history of that area. But we finally finished off at Amalienborg Palace, where the royal family live at the moment. And the tour, we've talked a lot about, of course, the history of Denmark, all those royal family members, but also I like to bring the guys and talk to them about maybe the social welfare state, sustainability, all that type of stuff. So I hope you've learned something at least.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sun gods, wind gods, not human gods. But the Absalon and Valdemar went down there and destroyed their civilization, protecting the area against further attack. Before this, of course, he was given these lands, but he was also made the Bishop of Lund, and multiple different areas in the country he was given as well. He was very, very powerful, and some of his descendants became royal family members themselves. Yes, the most famous one would be the son of Margrethe the First. Our previous queen was Margrethe II, but her son Olaf was a descendant of him as well. Now, we're going to start in the town square of Plaza. This is your city town hall. They're going to be adding 70 kronas onto each sandwich, but this one is mostly for the workers, so it's only open during the weekdays, and it's around 25 to 30 kronas for one piece. But if you go in here into the city, then you're talking like 100 kronas or so. Yeah, so it is a bit of a hard place to find some cheap spots, but I recommend that one if you come back here. Now let's carry on into the courthouse now. We don't have as many of examples as, say, you go to Berlin, you see loads of pot marks in the sides of buildings and things. Here you don't have as much examples of this because the cities were never taken whenever they were invaded, because the country decided to give up and surrender to the Nazis in 6 hours before they could get to the cities. It was the fastest invasion of a European country in history. People are very wealthy in Denmark, but you won't see too many Lamborghinis, Ferraris, but you won't also see too many gold chains, gold watches, these crass displays of wealth within the society. People do walk around in designer clothes, but it's very modest and coloured scheme normally. Now, people here are raised in a very humble way, and there's actually 10 unofficial rules of Scandinavian countries that go around the lines of you're not better than me, I'm not better than you. It's this type of creation of humility. So people don't show off their wealth in a more exuberant way like in other places. The system here has been set up to make sure that everybody gets looked after within this society, not depending on your ability, but people can be supported at any point in their life. But the reason for it to be so strong, it comes from that cultural identity of humility and togetherness. It's a very homogeneous society here, and they look after each other a lot of the times. Now, the way people spend money is, of course, on nice furniture for their nice apartments. This is where this concept of hygge comes in. Hygge translates to English as coziness, but it's a mentality to get through the winter time. this is a naturally formed island, believe it or not, across that water. It's a good spot if you're going to build up a castle, of course. So this is where Absalon decided to create his castle because he didn't have to create a moat around the area. But back in his days, this would have been large beaches around here, and this street is still called Gamel Strand, which means old beach. Now, the canals are extremely clean, so they cleaned them in the 1990s so that people could use them for leisure activities. They used to be very filthy because a lot of the industry that used to be here, but of course that industry moved away, and now it's mostly used for swimming and boating and that. Now, it's absolutely freezing at the moment, but they can get up to 22 degrees Celsius in the summertime because they hold in the heat. Now, I was very impressed by this because my hometown's canals are filled with shopping trolleys and human waste, yes? But if you jump into this canal, you'll die of shock, but you won't die of waterborne diseases. There's fish and plant life in the bottom of it. It's very, very nice. But if you do want to get a boat to go around it, there's a couple of companies that you can rent boats from. There's one called Go Boat, and it's you pay around 100 krona per person if you've got 5 people. There's a cheaper one called Ship Happens. They get old boats, fix them up, send you out to sea. There is, hopefully while you're here, it will open up again for the summertime. There's one that gives you free kayaks. It's called the Green Kayak Company. The National Museum is just at this here corner. Great spot if you want to know everything about Vikings and Danish culture and Danish history. But the country doesn't celebrate its Viking history as much as maybe Sweden or Norway does culturally. It's looked more towards Central Europe for such a long time. So the culturally day-to-day, the Viking types of activities, they're not really brought up that much. So as you can see, they've got shiny tiles on the roofs as well. So yes, these horses are richer than us. Now, they probably have better living conditions than all of us combined. Now, the Christiansborg Palace is great as a museum because you do get the politics, you get the royal family, you get the history of the buildings themselves, but also, of course, they've got a horse museum as well. So part of this is part of the horse museum too, if you fancy visiting it. But also, it's free to go to the top of that tower. It's like one of the only free things in Copenhagen. So I'd recommend doing that. Now, the political system in Denmark is extremely stable. It has one of the lowest corruption rates in the world for politics. Now, this comes because a lot of people come out to vote every single time they have to. The yellow pole. Now, they're not very pretty at all, but this is from the story that the Little Mermaid is based off. Now, there is a merman down there, and he's surrounded by his children. Now, apparently in the story, he seduced a woman on the land and brought her into the sea, and they had lots of children. And then if after 9 months of that holiday a child was born, the grandparents would get a free holiday. It was so expensive it only lasted 1 year, but it really worked because we got the childbirth rate up from 1.3 to 1.7. Now that's a pretty big jump, but we do need to get it to 2.1 to get a replacement rate going. I don't know what 0.3 of a child looks like, but these are just statistics, of course. Now, we've talked enough about sin, so we're going to carry on down to Nyhavn Harbour. This is the colourful picture postcard of Copenhagen, all those colourful buildings. You've probably already seen it already. I must warn you though, if you're going to get pickpocketed in the country, it probably will happen at Nyhavn. So phones in the front pockets, of course. But the restaurant owners will steal more money from you than a pickpocket will ever do. So really watch out for those guys, yeah? So let's carry on down this way.
Ship these materials from other countries. These boats run on heavy oil, so it must be very carbon intensive. But actually the shipping is one of the lowest percentages. Yes, even if you ship wood from the Amazon or maybe food from Spain or South America, it is going to be in and around 5% of the total carbon load. So the most important thing whenever it comes to carbon loads with food is the source it comes from. And normally if you're going to get low carbon food, you want, of course, organic, and most people who are chefs in a hotel, they're going to use organic anyway. Even further than that, you can try and find regenerative agriculture projects. Now what this means, it's kind of like organic, but they don't try to plow as much of the earth. And what this allows for is for the actual process of farming to store carbon within the soil itself. So that means that if you get regenerative farming food, then you've got a carbon sink as well. So you can deduct that from that as well. Now with the energy supply within Copenhagen, because it is so centralized and it is so efficient, it is pretty low. Yes, even Tivoli runs on 100% renewable energy, so it's an environmentally friendly amusement park. So basically, you don't need to do much research into it. You just need to find out which energy supplier I'm going to take from, and which ones don't also have additional companies in other countries that are invested in oil and so on and so forth. So that's a good way to drop that down. Now, the Copenhagen, it has 3 stages to try and be carbon neutral. It won't be as much of a marketing thing in the future because everybody will be, but at the moment they can say, yes, there's a lot of sustainable tourism at the moment, you can come here and know that this is zero.
Vielen herzlichen Dank, dass Sie meine Video bis Ende geschaut haben. Unterlasse ich einen Link von meinem Instagram-Kanal und Sie können jederzeit schauen, alle aktuellen Informationen finden Sie da. Und wenn das Video gefällt Ihnen, bitte lassen Sie Like, Kommentare, abonnieren meinen Kanal und sharen das mit euren Freunden. Schönen Abend wünsche ich. Adios. Ciao.